Welcome to Undercomplicating Stuff, where we, two psychologists and coaches with over 40 years of combined experience, share our insights to help undercomplicate important topics. A friendly reminder that this video is meant for entertainment and conversational purposes only. Please see the information section below this video for additional resources. So, I'm Julie Radico. I am a doctor of psychology, a speaker, a coach, and an author. And today I'm with Dr. Gedeon.
Hi, Stacey, Gedeon, health psychologist and a founder and CEO of a healthcare consulting and professional coaching business. And today's question is really, I think, a fun one. We were asked, what do you call a glimmer? What counts as a glimmer? What do we mean by glimmers? And we thought this was a really fun topic to tackle, and it's something that we're seeing more and more on social media. And lots of times we're so focused on what stresses us out and sort of the next fire we're putting out that we forget to notice the small little things that happen every single day, but perhaps we aren't tuning into them. And if we can train ourselves and teach ourselves and practice tuning into the small things, there's really been scientific research to support that. It helps with our well-being. It helps with our nervous system and also our overall happiness level, really.
I love this question. I have to be honest, Stacey, I had never heard of a glimmer before this question came up. And so checking into it and looking at what a glimmer is, I love this concept, this idea of finding meaningful moments of awe in your daily life. We tend to, when especially if you look at like research and stuff about like mindfulness, we tend to go on autopilot as human beings. Y'all, have you ever driven somewhere and been like, how did I get here? You were paying attention, but you were on autopilot. And so your brain tends to go think in all these places, thinking about, oh, I have to do this thing, or what's going to happen with that, or oh, remember that thing that happened in the past. And I find that we tend to not be focused on what's happening around us all the time. But also, when we do focus, we can fall into the trap of, oh, well, I wish that was different, or that wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, or oh, I feel nervous about how I have to do this, or oh, I wish this was different. Like all these traps that we fall into. Glimmers are this idea of having little moments of awe where you're purposely looking at, well, what are things that bring me joy that are just naturally around me? You don't have to go find some big magical thing, but when you're going and your brain is just kind of going through all that autopilot stuff and you're thinking about, oh, what I have to do, to say, well, what am I noticing around me right now that is bringing me joy? What's awe-inspiring? And even just the idea of purposely shifting your attention to that throughout the day, I think is such a helpful, like, good thing that we could do for ourselves.
I agree. And also keeping in mind that one person's glimmer is not another person's glimmer. So it's very personalized. Some exceptions might be there was an amazing sunrise where I live a couple of weeks ago, and everybody's still talking about it because it was so amazing. And I was opening up the window shade and I literally said out loud by myself, wow, it was just stunning. And that was something that brought me joy. And it wasn't a big thing. I didn't create it. I just noticed it. Another thing that for me will lift my mood every single time is the smell of campfire. It brings me back to camping days when I was a kid with my family, and I can be in a not so great mood driving along. I'll get that scent because I'm passing maybe a campground or something else. And it just, for a moment, it changes really everything in that present moment. And that can also be a song, it can be a pet. It can be just a, hey, thinking of you text from somebody. And those are things that are small every day. They don't cost anything. We're just needing to slow down enough to notice it. And we've talked about this in other videos about mindfulness. And I know one thing that I tend to do is when I take a walk outside, I really try to be mindful of what I'm noticing. So you can use your senses and get glimmers that way. What are the sights? What are the sounds? What are the smells? And those can be really easy ways to notice the things that kind of feel peaceful or joyful.
In the moment practice is such a great, healthy thing we can do for ourselves. I'm also mindful that sometimes, and even listeners right now, you might be at work, like listening to something while you're doing work, and you're like, great, glimmers. I'm, deep into emails or doing this project, whatever it might be, where you're like, oh, it's hard to pull out a glimmer right now. Have a compendium, a log, a tracking of glimmers for yourself. And you can make that look like anything. So you could have like a notes section in your phone that's full of glimmers. You could have saved emails from experiences, interactions you've had that really sparked joy for you. Like you saved the email from completing this big project and like getting accolades, and that was just like a really like healthy, helpful moment for you. It could also be in photos, in videos. I am sure many of the listeners have photos that you can pull up on your phone that have hung out for a long time because they have sentimental value to you. I will say, I have a photo that transfers over from every phone. Like, you can like store things in clouds and all that good stuff, but like this just like stays on my phone. And it's a picture of a butterfly. And it was after a loved one had passed. And it was just a really meaningful moment for this butterfly to show up in the way that it did. And so that's on my phone. And, every now and then I'll kind of scroll through my photos, and that's such a joyful picture to like stumble upon is what it feels like every time where I'm like, oh yeah, I still have that photo from like 7 years ago, just in my phone. And so finding ways to really like give your nervous system a soothing moment when you really need it, when you're stressed, but also just throughout your daily life, having a practice of giving yourself moments of finding what's something good, what's something meaningful, happy, positive, to not ignore the negative that might be there, but to give yourself a moment of like calm, a moment of respite, to really purposefully be looking for these kind of things.
Even if we're looking at a big goal that we're focusing on, if we wait until the end, whether it's a work project or a hobby or something else or a health goal, if you wait until the end to feel joy and happiness and satisfaction, that's a really long time. And we know through behavior and motivation that if you notice your progress along the way, that's another way to capture a glimmer. It might be that you ticked off a box of things that you were wanting to do, and maybe you're not completely done, but you've been able to honor those things that you did complete and really kind of make you feel good. And another way is to kind of ask yourself, okay, what felt good today? What's a good thing that happened? And I know I've worked in places where they would say at the beginning of a meeting, name one good thing. And that's something that you can again put into practice, and then the brain kind of expects to have those things and will start to look for them. Even if you're already good at capturing glimmers and paying attention, try to then extend it maybe by 5 or 10 seconds and just really sort of bask in it and really notice it. And so you can kind of take it up to a level and maybe make a challenge for yourself. I'm going to notice at least 1 or 3 glimmers a day and really kind of focus on that.
So building on that, yeah, there are different strategies. There's different ways that you could do this. And I saw a really thoughtful video in the past year or so of somebody talking about how they and their partner purposefully shifted what they talked about every evening into naming the best part of their day. So the person who was on this video was talking about the fact that that really made it so throughout each of their days, they were looking for the best part of the day. So, something good may happen, and they're like, oh, but was that the best? Is there something else that might be the best part of my day? And so, really trying to, like, just like we were talking about, look for what are the good things that are happening? What are the glimmers, the things that you can bask in and try to like elongate and really take notice of? Because it's a shift. So this is jargon. But if we're thinking about like cognitive behavioral therapy, there's this idea that we have like a schema, like the kind of like the glasses, the lenses that you view the world through. And my way that I view the world is going to be different than every other person on the planet, just because I'm a unique human being. Doesn't make it wrong, doesn't make it right. Our glasses, though, depending on, if we imagine they have lenses in them that are yellow or blue or green or purple, it might filter out certain things. And those might be certain positive things in our environment. So, a practice and this idea of, well, can I purposely notice and try to think about what was the best part of my day that I'm going to share with somebody? I will add in here something that I would totally encourage people to share. I have a wonderful group of friends where it just evolved over several years that there was one Thursday, and y'all, we call it Thursday now instead of Thursday, where one of us was having a hard day, and people just ended up sharing pictures of their cats, their dogs, their pets. And it was such a lovely thing. It was such a beautiful moment of all these glimmers that helped you like be like, that's adorable. Oh my gosh, look at this pup, look at this cat, look at and we do that every single Thursday for years now. We have just packed in glimmers. And so figuring out what works and makes sense for you, but maybe it's what's the best moment of your day? What looking for that? What's the best thing that happened that day? What was the best glimmer that you could find and sharing that with a loved one? And also coming up with creative things of, maybe you want a first day because it's pretty amazing.
I love that. I've never heard of that, and it's amazing, and I'm stealing it. Um, and to add to your point about needing to look for them, again, if we think about our biology, we're primed, our brains are primed to survive. And so it's really easy to notice the scary, stressful stuff because our brain is tuned into that. And that's why sometimes it can feel like through those lenses, maybe they're blue or gray and everything just feels that way. And so it does take some effort. But we also know that if you kind of train your brain to notice those things, it can really help balance out the stressful portions of your day. The glimmers are already happening. They're already out there. They're already part of your daily life, and you just have to notice them.
Don't judge yourself around this. I find that with topics where you're encouraged to be mindful, you're encouraged to find something positive, like a glimmer, we tend to then sometimes knock those things down and go, that's still not good enough. Or, oh, my glimmer is this. I'm sure somebody else's glimmer would be better. Or people wouldn't think that's good enough to be a glimmer. The glimmer is what has meaning and is awe-inspiring, peace-bringing, joy-bringing, respite-bringing for you. So no one else gets to decide. What brings you joy is what brings you joy. So please be mindful to just like lean into that and notice those things without falling into the trap of judging yourself out of that joy. And so if this topic resonated with you, please share it with somebody that you care about. Also, please comment, like, subscribe. We love to hear your glimmers in the comments. And you can also message us on our social media, like our LinkedIn or our YouTube channel, with questions you'd like us to discuss in future episodes.